Week 4 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few kickers I would start this week. The first kicker, Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. So now with CeeDee Lamb out a few weeks with a high ankle sprain, this offense is going to take a step back. And I think they're going to have to settle for more field goals. Where obviously Aubrey, 60, 65 yards isn't even a problem from him kicking the football. So Aubrey so far this season, first 2 weeks, went out there, had big ball games. And then week 3, Chicago still 35-yarder and a 54-yarder in that ball game for Aubrey. So it seems like weekly he's getting those 50-plus yarders. But now, like I said, in a matchup that's going to be tough versus the Green Bay Packers, and with CeeDee Lamb down and not playing this week here, I think Aubrey, more opportunities. They're going to trot him out there. Obviously, you know, this Cowboy team, they want to go out there and beat Micah Parsons, their former teammate, where they traded him off to this Green Bay Packer team. Well, that it was a mistake, him requesting a deal. And like I said, Brandon Aubrey, week in and week out, he's a kicker that goes out there and he puts points on the board with his big boot. And obviously this Cowboy offense now is going to stall out even more, I think, with Lamb out of the lineup. Next kicker, Cameron Dicker of the Los Angeles Chargers. Cameron Dicker, he's been a solid kicker throughout his NFL career, one of the more accurate kickers of all time as well. And so far this season, decent games. Week 1 versus Kansas City, 9. Week 2 with the Vegas Raiders, 7. And week 3 versus the Broncos, a 26-yarder, 34-yarder, 45-yarder, and 2 extra points. So this week, a good matchup at the New York Giants, a defense that really can't stop anyone, and they do give up the 4th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So I think this Charger offense, they're going to have their way in New York in week 4, even though at times the Giants defense in the red zone, they bend but don't break. So if it's extra points and a couple field goals, or even a long field goal and a few extra points, I think Dicker goes out there this week and has a good game. Next kicker, Chris Boswell of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last week it was a quiet game for Chris Boswell. After the first 2 weeks, he had double-digit fantasy points. Week 1 at the Jets, 14 fantasy points. Week 2 versus the Seahawks, 12. And then week 3 at the Patriots, only 3 extra points. In that one, it was for Chris Boswell, not even attempting a field goal. So this week, ball game in Dublin versus the Minnesota Vikings, where they gave up the 5th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And Chris Boswell, another kicker, one of the most accurate kickers of all time, 50-plus yards, he's automatic. But that's the thing around the NFL with these kickers nowadays. There's a lot of kickers that can hit it 55, 60 yards, and it's not a problem. And we've seen it already a lot this season. This week in Dublin, I think Chris Boswell bounces back and he'll get a few field goal attempts, and he's a solid start this week. Next kick, Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. Harrison Butker on a decent offense with this Chiefs team, but they've had trouble in the red zone, running the football and finding the end zone, where they've had to settle for field goals a decent amount early going into the year. Week 1 at the Chargers, he had 8 points, was Butker. Week 2 versus the Eagles, 7. And week 3 at the New York Giants, 27-yarder, 43-yarder, 52-yarder, and an extra point missed again 2 games in a row, that is, which is weird, and an extra point made in that ball game. So week 4 versus Baltimore, you know this is going to be a track meet most likely between these two teams. They know Kansas City, they got to put points on the board to keep up with this Raven high-flying offense. And I think Harrison Butker, they're going to trot him out there for opportunities. He's been a solid kicker for this Chief team for a few seasons now, obviously. And also, he got a nice contract extension. So in a potential high-scoring game, obviously, this week, between these two rivals in the AFC, I think Butker goes out there and has a good game. And the final kick, I would start Spencer Schrader of the Indianapolis Colts. Schrader's still out there in over 70% of fantasy leagues, in 3 weeks to start the season, double-digit fantasy points every week is Schrader. So he's got a good boot. He's been one of the more accurate kickers in the league since he entered a couple years ago, even though he's bounced around with the Jets, Chiefs last season. And now he's found a home in Indianapolis, and this Colt team and great football to begin the year. 3-0 on the year. This week, definitely a tough matchup, and maybe their toughest test of the year at the Los Angeles Rams. But the good thing is it's an indoor game, which is always a plus. And Schrader this season with most of his games indoors. Obviously, Indianapolis playing at home. This is a kicker that should be owned in more leagues. And also, this Colt offense at times is an offense that stalls out in the red zone area. We've seen it for years where kickers have had decent numbers with this Colt team. And Schrader is another one this season, going out there and putting up points. Definitely a kicker to start this week. So that's a few kickers I would start for week 4 of the fantasy football season.